Hey, how y'all doing? This is Mongo Slade, and today we're going to compare some gimmicks from John Tenta. But first, hit that like button for me. Second, hit subscribe and make sure you're still subscribed. And let's talk about John Tenta. So John Tenta came to the WWE in the late 80s, early 90s. I couldn't give you an exact year because I'm doing this off the top of my head. But he was had wrestled in Japan. And I think his name I actually looked this up. I think his name was something like Heavenly Mountain or something had to do with nature. So when Vince McMahon brought him into WWE, they went with Earthquake or the Canadian Earthquake. That was his original name. And he basically was a big fat guy who sat on people. That was essentially his gimmick. He's a big fat guy. He would jump around. I don't know what the theatrics was for. Like I mean, that was the earthquake splash. And as a kid of Husk, when I was younger, you always get this whole idea that, oh no, the fat guy is gonna sit on me. The fat guy is gonna sit on you. You better shut up or I'm gonna sit on you. And you'd be like, whoever just sits on people. And like John Tenta, Earthquake sits on people. I didn't get it. I don't know if that's where people got it from, but that was his finish. His finish was that he stomped around the ring, well, jumped up and down, like up and down around you, and then ran to the ropes, came off, and sat on you. And that was his finish. And it got over. No matter how it sounds stupid today, it's absolutely ludicrous. But the guy was like 400 pounds. So it was a believable finish that if a big fat dude sits on your sternum, you're probably going to have a hard time getting up. And he really got over. Like he was a big draw with Hogan. He got a run with Hogan. He got a run with Warrior. He got a run with Jake the Snake Roberts. I think he crushed Damien. He killed Damien. Uh, he was really, they really pushed him. They really pushed him to the moon. He never got the title or anything. Like they never won any title back then. You were a giant. If you were like a giant, like the Big Boss Man, Andre. Andre had a long run with Hogan, and he actually did get the title. But only Andre and Undertaker were sort of the giants that wrestled Hogan and got the title. Everybody else who was sort of a giant that was brought in to wrestle Hogan, King Kong Bundy, Kamala, Earthquake, all these guys were just essentially it was like villains from the Power Rangers. They were there for like a one shot. They probably wrestled Hogan two or three times, did a loop with him, and then they moved on to somebody else, did a loop with them. But he got his loop with Hogan was profitable. He might have had one of the last couple of profitable loops with Hogan, and then of course he had profitable loops with Jake Roberts and Warrior. And then they turned him babyface. He was working babyface. Of course, he had Tugboat, which I think they called him Typhoon later, and it was a natural disaster. They were the tag team champions. Really, again, really weird. And they were kind of notable tag team champions. And I don't really know what year he jumped ship to WCW. I think it was. I heard his name mentioned in a WCW pay per view, but he wasn't on the show. I'm not sure if it was 95 or 94, but he was gone. Yokozuna essentially took his place after Earthquake had his big run. Yoko came in and Yoko essentially just took over because Yoko was doing the exact same thing. The Banzai drop is essentially the running Earthquake splash, which is the running Earthquake sit onto you. And they basically took it to the next level with Yokozuna. They essentially did almost the exact same storyline, except they gave Yoko the title, and they added some the Japanese flavor for good luck. So then he went to WCW, and he had this gimmick. It was called Shark, and matter of fact, I think John Tenta came to WCW along the time when Hogan brought in all those guys. Like there was a lot of folks that came into WCW with Hogan, like Ray Traylor and Jim Duggan, and I think the Nasty Boys that came back. And there was a bunch of other guys that came in with Hogan in '94 because Hogan had to have his crew. He had to have his crew of guys that he worked with, Brutus the Barber Beefcake, guys that he knew he could trust and make money with. So Hogan was very paranoid. Nobody ever talks about that. They always say, Randy Savage was super paranoid. Like, yeah, but Hogan was too. If you listen to like Kevin Sullivan, like, yeah, Hogan was super paranoid. There was always going to be people out there try to break his leg. Somebody was always out for a spot, stuff like that. So Hogan liked keeping people that he could work with around him. And one of those people was John Tenta. And he really became to like Earthquake in WWF when they did their loop together. So he brought him to WCW. At least that's my head canon. And it seems to match up. And it seems to make sense to, how Shark ended up in WCW around the same time Hogan was there. And I don't know if that's the official story or not. So Shark was his WCW gimmick, and it required for him to just call himself Shark, and for him to have teeth on his face. He's got teeth on his face, and I don't know what else you could do with that, bro. What can you do with teeth on your face? I don't know what more you could do. I know that people with painted faces, sometimes they put like weird teeth on it. Like I know Finn Balor's demon has teeth on the face sometimes, but he just had teeth on his face, like to make him. And I think he actually changed his tattoo on his shoulder from a tiger to a shark, so that he could better fulfill this gimmick. Now in WCW later on, they would change his name to something more apropos, which would be Avalanche. That actually fits the name gimmick a lot better. Like if you was going to do, well, we're going to have the Ultimate Warrior, well, we're going to have the Renegade, we're going to have the Big Boss Man, well, we're going to have the Boss, or the Guardian Angel. Ugh. But Avalanche makes more sense than Shark, and it was just a shame that he had to walk around with teeth on his face. It was so weird. I don't even know what that was supposed to be. I think he was in the Dungeon of Doom too, which made it even worse because the Dungeon of Doom was just the most Skeletor-ish, He-Man horse shit that you can possibly imagine in a wrestling show. The Dungeon of Doom was so bad. It was cartoonish. It was cartoonishly bad. But I think he was involved with that. I mean, if somebody can correct me if their WCW history is better than mine, but I'm almost certain. I know that he had a run. I know he had at least one match with Sting. I think it was a TV match. I don't think he worked like any major pay-per-views or anything. I never heard of like the Shark being in a pay-per-view main event, especially since I think Vader was also still there at the time. And Vader was sort of like their top big guy. There was no room for Tenta. Maybe Hogan thought he could work Tenta in. And maybe he did work with Hogan on top once or twice, maybe. But I know that he ended up going back to the WWE as Golga from the Oddities, which is a stupid gimmick too. But I don't know, man. See, Earthquake doesn't make much sense, because I don't know how you gimmick a natural disaster. But it fits. Like if you're going to propose that this guy is so deadly that he's kind of like an earthquake. He shakes the ground as he walks, because he's so big. Even though so that makes sense. You can talk yourself into that. But how do you talk yourself into a 400-pound man being a shark? Is he under the sea? Is he a sea creature? I don't know. How do you talk yourself into that? I don't know how you get into that. I don't know how you get out of it. But there was that time where WWE was just hiring any big fat guy they could find and putting him in there with Hogan to take the big leg drop. And he was one of them. But he was actually pretty good. And he seemed to be a very nice man. It's unfortunately that he passed away. But let me know what you guys thought. All my WCW fans, I'm leaning on you guys a little bit more heavy this time. Tell me something about the Shark, because Earthquake is fine. It's not the best gimmick in the world, but it ain't Shark, for Christ's sake. Let me know. Let me know what you guys think. Like this video, share this video, subscribe to the channel. Thank you guys again, and I'll talk to you guys later.